I do this every day for the last 10 months, but it still excites me even more every day because we're building on great momentum. Building on great people. And as everybody gets better, everybody can help each other get better through the knowledge share, through the optimistic approach to things, maybe the new way of doing things, having something that's novel really has an attraction. Chat's open. I encourage everybody to take advantage of it. We want to direct our time and attention to supporting you and helping you, especially if we can do something that can help you today. And today's topic, which seems to be something that people are really attracted to, is mindset. And I believe that's primary to everything we do. With that said, chat's open. Please feel free to use it. I want to take this opportunity to welcome back Brett Packard, who just knocked it out of the park last time and got so much wonderful feedback from that. Again, that's why we do what we do, is based on hearing from you. So, Brett, why don't you catch everybody up and share your thoughts on mindset?
Yeah, great. Well, first of all, it's an honor to be with both of you this morning, and on the camera, and all of you that are tuning in here. So, thank you all for your time. And I think that we all have a choice, right? When we commit to do something, is that we could be doing something else. So we're either interrupting or moving something to the side. So I'm very appreciative to everybody that's listening to us right now. And yeah, I mean, mindset is something that's really important. I believe that it's critical. It's not everything, but it is a necessary ingredient. And what I mean by it's not everything is that you can have a great mindset, but if you don't take action, then nothing really gets done. So, but you've got to have both. If you try to take action with the wrong mindset, that's not going to turn out very well either. So, I have found that having a mindset that's aligned with my values and my goals and what I want to achieve is a very powerful thing, because I specialize in helping people navigate adversity, especially really large teams, big companies, individuals. And adversity happens in this world. And, the most recent example I don't need to remind people of is COVID, right? And, if you even look at today's news, India has a new subvariant outbreak of this that may or may not turn into something. But, COVID, I don't know if it's going away, if it's coming back. I don't know. But what I do know is that if it's not COVID, something else is going to happen beyond everybody's control. And having that mindset, the topic of today, is really crucial for guiding that, because the changes will happen.
I believe it. Kelly?
Yeah, true story. I mean, and I love your point about, mindset isn't everything, because you've got to have action to go behind the mindset. But you're right, mindset, and what I know I've said many of times on here, your mindset going into a situation, you go in with a negative mindset, whatever the situation is, you're going to pull every piece of negativity out of it to feed the belief that you've gone in, and vice versa. So it is about how you approach it. I'm always interested in what other people do to get, their mindset in the day. And I know we've talked about this before, because I myself, I generally start every day with my 5-minute journal, and I end it with my 5-minute journal, because that is a way to get your mindset going for the day, and like Don, I know that you're big on going and you do your walk in the morning, and that's kind of your set, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And whatever works for you works.
Right.
And that's what makes you unique. And everybody has their own time and space, and you have to respect that. And one has to respect themselves for it, because if you consider yourself a work in progress and your mindset is part of that work, the goal is, how do you improve it, right? And before we get too deep, let me introduce what's the most important part of the show is the audience. Leslie is here. Leslie's been coming recently. I've talked to her. She's actually going to be a guest next Monday, and has picked out her own topic. And now I'm soliciting topics from future speakers, because again, that relates more to maybe their background and interest. and plus it brings more collaboration. Leslie's going to be here for part of the day, so we'll have to talk fast. Hello, all. Roxanne's here. Great to see you. Paul's here. One of the top of the top. Hello, Don, Brett, and Kelly. Happy thriving Thursday. Excited to hear Brett share again. Well, it's nice to know people care. Mindset is a huge topic. So definitely. Christy says you have the power of you. Happy day to all. We're starting out with so many great commenters and comments. Christy with a heart. Nice to know that there's interactions between everybody too. Hi, sir, professional. Okay. Well, one day. Morning from Dean. Dean's a great guy, brings his wonderful attitude and comedy relief at times. I believe there's 3 pillars to being a high achiever: mindset, proximity, and action. Well, when we can think beyond one word, that even helps also. So mindset based on this, something with, we've got a new individual I haven't seen. Mindset is the foundation of winning. Lillian is here. Great lady. I'd reach out and connect. Good morning, everyone. Pauline, who I haven't seen in a little bit, but I believe is just a wonderful individual who brings a lot of positive benefit to the show. Good morning, all. Yes, mindset and having a day's plan are key. So with that, Brett, what are you thinking about some of these comments and how they could apply from some mindset advice or insight?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we have amongst everybody here that's commenting so far. You have some great ideas as well, and we'd love to do that. I think one of the things that I do on mindset is that obviously going through life, you gain a lot of experiences with different things and ups and downs, and the human tendency is to remember the downs more than the ups. I don't know why that is. I'm not a psychologist. I can't do it that way. But one of the things that I do to keep a positive mindset is that I spend time focused on the ups. Okay. Especially during the downs, because you've got to kind of fight that, whatever's inside the head. And again, I don't know what it is, but I use something called an adversity quotient, and AQ. A lot of people talk about IQ, and EQ seems to be the buzzword of the 2020s, and that's really important. Emotional intelligence and the different things. But I use AQ a lot because, again, that adversity is just something. It's like the weather. You just don't know when the storm is going to strike. And so you can't do anything about it. And so what you need to be able to do is, how do you handle adversity? And there's 3 simple tricks that I use to make sure that my AQ is strong. And number 1 is to make sure that I don't, whatever the situation is, I don't start blaming other people for the situation. Nothing is achieved by that. Number 2, I don't blame myself. A lot of people start blaming themselves, and this whole victimhood game as well. Don't get caught up in that, because that will destroy any positive mindset that you're building the second that you embrace victimhood. And number 3, understand that whatever's happening, when the rainstorm is happening, the sun will come out. So it's limited in scope and duration. COVID as well. Again, I don't know if it's over or not, but I think we can see some light that it's not ending the world, and that even with COVID, for example, keeping that mindset throughout that things will get better over time. So just find a way to deal with it as best you can. You can't control it, but don't let it consume you.
Amen. And I mean, it's through every darkness there is light. I mean, there is no doubt about that. And it is all about how you approach situations. I know growing up, my parents always told me, if I was blaming someone else, remember that one finger you have pointing out, there's 4 that are pointing back at you.
I love that. I hadn't heard that before. I love it.
And it's true, because it's just like, hey, it is what it is, accept it. And it I don't want to say it makes it easier by any means, but you you go through it quicker. Because when you're in the blame game, whatever it is, if it's yourself, the self-inflicted victimhood, or you're trying to blame someone else, it just makes the process longer. And it's like, avoid all of it and get to the other side of it. quicker, because adversity is part of life. And I think one of a great visual that I saw one time, and I can't remember who I saw saying this, so I apologize for not giving them credit for it. But life is ups and downs, and it's your heartbeat. It's the same thing. It's life. That's how it's supposed to be.
Right.
You've got to enjoy those downs as much as you enjoy the highs, because it's part of it. Doesn't mean they're fun. I mean, I'm like anyone else. I don't love them, but I always know that it's going to be over. So the sooner I can jump out and get into it, the sooner I'm going to be out of it. It's just the mustering up the courage. And I think one of the beauties of just here is when you have community. You know, I'm blessed with an amazing family who supports me and my close friends. So I've got community around me. So when I'm going through some, not great stuff, I've got people I can reach out to that help me get through it. And that's even better. And in a community here too, and we talked a little bit about this before we went live this morning, is, community provides that sense of belonging, security, safety. And when we feel all of those things, it does make everything less scary or less approachable, or in the sense of, I can do it because I've got the support. I'm not alone. And I think when we feel not alone and supported, of course, that makes everything easier. Even through the hard, adverse times in life, it does make it easier. Doesn't mean that we enjoy it more, but it does make it more bearable, I guess is a good way to describe it. What are your thoughts, Don?
Well, I think that, both of you are so thought-provoking and create so much seeds for thought. It's like a investment portfolio that you make for yourself. And what I mean by that, if you're diversified, not one area of your life or one person in your life is make or break, right? It's like the Three Little Pigs. Someone built a house on straw, someone did it with brick. And as I was saying, if you don't have time to do it right, do you have time to do it over again, right? And if like Brett had mentioned, that you're going to have another challenge. Once you're over another challenge, there's another one on the horizon, maybe tomorrow, maybe next year. The time to get strong is when you're strong, in anticipation of having that reserve when that challenge comes. And when you don't make it about you and you make it about it, everything gets better, right? If you can take yourself personally out of situations and just look at them for what they are and who's involved in them, and deal with it as you can and as you see it. Too many people are anticipating the future and there's no benefit, because if you're right, it's going to happen anyways. And if you're wrong, it's going to happen anyways. But if you feel fear, you're going to start letting fear modify your plan, how your relationships is. And what I was thinking about when you were talking about COVID is the initial reaction on everybody was to pull back. Right? Get in a corner, hide, stay away because no one knew anything in the beginning. It was just really scary. Now, the challenge for those people is, how do they go forward? It's easy to back up and back down and hide. But eventually, like you say, the storm clears. How fast do you get up and start approaching the sunshine? Or have you just marginalized yourself in interactions? And I think shows like this, bring people out of their shells, right? Who are yearning for the old days, which was just 3.5, 4 years ago. It wasn't like the 50s or the 60s. And now this is a step forward. Plus, it's so much easier and more convenient to meet people in real time at home, right? Because I could never be with Kelly and Brett right now physically, unless we all decided to travel somewhere and meet and then had to travel back. So in some ways, what's happened is accelerated things that were going to get bigger anyways, and eliminate things that were on their way out, and that just accelerated the process. But I think that what's happening now is people want friendships. People originally came here for jobs. Then they came here to make money. And now they're coming here to build communities, the ones who are really doing well. So what's your thoughts, Brett? Well, let me cover some of these wonderful topics, and maybe we can build off of them. Boy, they sure came in. I'll just start somewhere. Okay, I think we covered that. Mindset is a huge topic. I'll just run through these. Paul, we went through that. Okay, keep skipping. Okay, so let's just go with this one first, which is good morning from Lillian. Thank you. Pauline, again, Leslie. Proximity is that context, Paul. Leslie then says, is proximity context. Leslie then says lots of hybrid terms now. Christine, who's always a great contributor and an inspiration for so many. I've heard that we're negative because it's a survival instinct. We're always looking for ways to protect ourselves and stay safe. We are biologically programmed to look for threats. Yeah, and that can really be something that overwhelms you. Liz Jones is here. Liz is a wonderful lady.
Hey, Liz. Yep.
Spot on. Victim mindset doesn't add value. No, it subtracts, actually.
Yes.
Leslie, fear is temporary and often a green light that you're ready to change. Yeah, it can take subtle signals and really work with them. Thank you, David from Uganda, for joining us today. Leslie, in my experience, being around like-minded people helps you not only to develop a better mindset, it makes you want to take action. It really does, like Brett said, all boil down to implementation. Without application, knowledge is nothing. Absolutely. Leslie, I've heard that too. When we were kids, no good as adults to maintain the same survival techniques as children. So it is context. Thank you. Christy says, we grow when we have those ups and downs. If our life doesn't just has a straight line, how is one growing? So is true. Paul, so excited for the awesome journey, Kelly and Christy.
Thank you, Paul.
Paul's such a wonderful, supportive individual. Being thankful for hard times is hard, but such a blessing because of all the learnings you can acquire. If you take the longer view, it's the better view in most cases, because people can get caught up in the shock of things or the surprise. Adversity is the greatest gift, Scott McGregor. I talked to Scott, great guy. I'd reach out and get to know him. He's doing some wonderful things out there. Dean, so true, Dean. Leslie, exactly, Don. How much time will it take you to realize what you were thinking? That's important. One of the biggest lessons I had to learn about mindset is the only limits that exist are the ones we place on ourselves. Impossible equals I'm possible. Lillian, community is so important. Ice, I haven't forgot your nickname. Hello, respect it all. Hello, Leslie. It's nice to have people knowing each other. Good morning, everyone. Chastity's here, who's a great friend of Gretchen. Ice, hello, my friend. Great. Friends among friends. Linda's here. Morning, all. Can have seen many mindsets in the last few years, some pushing negative, but love seeing all the positive and shared mindsets to encourage, and love having many positive ones shared here. Well, we love having you, Linda. You're part of the fest. So we kind of caught up. Brett?
Yeah, I'd like to, Linda, thanks for that. If I could, Don and
Okay.
Kelly, I'd like to talk about Linda's last comment. And put that, there we go. Yeah, I think that just in general, there's a lot of people out there, large media voices that are really pushing a lot of this negative thoughts about, everything ranging from hate the country, hate the foundation of the country, just a lot of noise out there, right? And then there's people on the other extreme as well. And I think it's important that we understand that, we were God gave us a brain and an ability to live unlike a squirrel. Okay. I tell this story all the time because there's something out there called quiet quitting, which are younger generations that are out there that are just fed up with the way they've been treated. There's a whole host of reasons. We won't get into all of those. And they just say, you know what? I'm no longer going to give 100%. I'm going to do the bare minimum required, which is what a squirrel does. So if you observe squirrels, my wife and I lived in Nebraska for a number of years, and you watch the squirrels, they're really busy in the summertime, preparing the food, putting the nuts in the ground for the winter so that they have something to eat. Their instincts are great. And guess what? The next year, they do the same thing again and again and again. And this quiet quitting attitude is something that is really for those deciding to do it. Okay, they're actually transforming themselves into the life of a squirrel, where the same thing will happen time and time again. And I would just encourage people to think about, look, if you're in a toxic situation at work, get out, because there are plenty of non-toxic situations out there. But don't become a squirrel. Invest in yourself. Get on this platform. Get on Donald's LinkedIn Lives. If you're not happy with your community at work, build your own community.
Mhm.
This is a great way to do it that way. Do something about it, but don't live like a squirrel. So, Linda, that was, sorry, I don't want to go on and on about it, but I think that you're right about there are some forces out there that portray this negative thing. And I've just used the quiet quitting as an example, that's not the way to handle a negative situation. Have a positive mindset, do something about it, make the changes.
That's right. I mean, this goes to the whole thing of what you said at the very beginning. Mindset has to have action. If there's something that's not serving you, take action to do something to change it, because you have the choice to do that. And the other side of that coin, and I've said this to many a manager over my career, is I've always been a manager, and I think it's from the mentors I had. I don't know where I got it from, but I've always managed from a sense of compassion and empathy. Everyone's an individual. You can't treat everyone exactly the same, because people
Right.
don't learn the same. They're not encouraged the same way, that sort of thing. But if you, as a manager, pay attention to your team. If you notice someone who used to be, spicy and involved, and suddenly they go quiet, something is
Yep.
wrong. Pay attention to that. Because as soon as someone goes quiet, there is something wrong. And it doesn't mean
Right.
necessarily in their personal life. It could be their personal life, but it doesn't mean you have to, try to get them to tell you everything that's going on in their world, but acknowledge it. And I used to do that. If I noticed someone came in and they were definitely in a slump, because it affects everyone else on the team, regardless if you think it doesn't, it does. But I would call them in and just be like, hey, I'm just noticing that, you seem a little bit off to me today. What can I do to help you? You're not asking them to share it with you. You're just letting them know, hey, I'm here for you. And honestly, you would be surprised at how people will tell you likely everything that's going on when you do that. Because when you feel, it goes to that whole thing, when you feel supported and safe, you feel it's okay to be vulnerable and share. So I think that, quiet quitting is a phenomenon for sure, but I do think it's something that's been going on for a long time.
Yeah.
But I also feel that people stay in that quiet quitting space for longer than they should. I mean, I know people even currently that have been in a toxic work environment and they choose to stay. And my feeling is always like, well, if you're going to come and talk about it and ask for advice on what to do, and then you don't take action to change it, you're choosing to stay there for a reason. And
Shame on you. Right.
you need to figure out why that you're saying you're comfortable in that uncomfortableness for a reason. And because it is a choice, take action and make an exit plan. Nobody's telling you to quit your job so you don't get a paycheck. Because I know that that's an issue for many nowadays, for sure, is needing the
Right.
paycheck. But there still are options. You can still reach out to people and look for other positions, and you can leave. You don't have to stay. And I know what that's like. Sometimes it's hard to go because it's like, man, I love who I'm working with and I really like my job. But man, when it starts impacting you on your mental health, it carries over into your whole life. And it's like, once you get rid of it, I've never heard anyone who's left a toxic environment that goes, man, I wish I would have stayed there longer.
Right. I agree. And, Donald, I got a question for you. How many just roughly, people did you have on your lives last year, roughly? Probably
A year ago, there really wasn't a live. I mean, I did some.
last 6 months. What would you say, just roughly?
What was the question? How many?
How many participants have tuned into this program? Roughly. Wild
Um,
guess. Yeah. See, it's a lot you're having to think
yeah,
about.
no, I
Yeah.
could say thousands to 10,000s have been
Yeah.
impacted directly by viewing it. I'm thinking probably at least probably about 50 different people have co-hosted over that time
Yeah.
who also broadcast.
Right. I
And
mean, I'm broadcasting to my network right now simultaneously, which is 14. So I bet the numbers. It would fill up a baseball stadium,
oh,
football
for sure. I
stadium in
mean,
the
if
United
you look
States.
at
And
it, if you look at it from
yeah,
just networking,
Yeah.
right.
right? And if you
Yeah.
combine three people who have, let's say, 15,000 connections, that's
Yeah.
45,000. And what's remarkable, and uh, I would take, I would advocate someone going to somebody who they're connected to and they
Hmm.
really align with, and compare
Right.
how many mutual connections you have with them, and you see how small it is. So
Hmm.
when you combine three bubbles, they all get bigger, or circles, when you combine them together. Not only that, it brings different audiences because circles then have circles to them. And,
Right.
to the topic we were just saying, is as far as quiet quitting, one time I had 72 people under roof that I employed.
Hmm.
And what I find, communication without context is not good communication. Consistent communication works best. So when I had my workplace, I always had an open door. When you walk through the hall, you look directly into my office down the hall,
Hmm.
right? And if that door was open, you were open to come in. And with that many people, there wasn't one person who didn't come in at least once a month. And I encouraged more. And it typically was they have a situation, and
Right.
the situation
Yep.
was, I need to get to St. Louis. Someone passed away. I don't have airfare. You
Hmm.
know, I need to get bailed out even. That if I don't come up with $500, I'm not going to be at work for a month. And,
Right.
and so it was those situations that when you showed you cared and you
Hmm.
were there and you were available, then no one got too far apart. So when someone
Right.
stops talking to you, it's probably because you stopped talking to them or stopped welcoming in to talk about it. And I think when people talk about things, they can work things out. When people can't, they take independent action. And
Yes.
that doesn't always work. And then it affects more than what they were actually focused on. Paul has a question for the audience. I'm curious what the panel thinks. From my experience, a big problem I'm noticing in the sense of entitlement for my generation. Deserve has been a word I've removed from my vocabulary. I don't believe the world owes me anything, and I owe the world. Well, I think everybody's got to appreciate, if it's not them, it's someone else. Every headline you see in a newspaper wasn't there the day before, right? And someone ended up winning a big prize, losing everything. It just, that's what it is, news. And I think the key is everything is going to happen to somebody when it's going to happen to them. How you look at it, how you deal with it is all you can do with it, right?
Yeah.
If you don't look at it properly, if you don't deal with it properly, you extend the life of it and you take the past into the future with you. What's your thoughts, Brett?
Yeah, I mean it's quite simple. It's a great point, Paul. Don't let what you consume you.
Good point.
Okay, and let me just put a practical tip there that all of you can do that will change your life if you're bothered by this. If you're not bothered by this, it won't change your life. But it will be life changing if you limit your media consumption to 30 minutes to an hour a day. Mine's an hour a day because I like to stay on top of things. But once I hit that hour quota, That's it. I don't allow anything else in that way as well. Okay, so you got what, 16 hours in a day if you get your sleep. So 15 of those hours you should not open the door to media consumption. Okay, it's just too dominating. It will start to consume you. Now maybe your tolerance is 2 hours. I don't know, but the tip is don't let what you consume you. I'd like to talk one point about why I brought up the point around something that Kelly said about, if she doesn't know one person that has left a toxic environment that's regretted it down the road, and that's very true. And Donald, the reason why I asked you the question about how many tens of thousands of people that you impact through this program is that if you're worried about your paycheck and you're in a toxic environment, okay, the advice is get out of that environment. I know you've got to have a paycheck, but get on this platform and get to networking, get to meet people, because we talked about that you could fill up some football stadiums of people with this as well. You meet some people, you connect with some people, you participate in this live program. It's no more than an hour of your time, right? You start to you need to build those relationships. This is a great way to do that. Donald's opened the door, no different than when he was overseeing 75 people down the hallway. This is another way of opening the door to tens of thousands of people. Get in, get to know people, connect with them. And before you know it, you'll have some opportunities, okay, knocking at your door. But get out of that toxic environment, like Kelly said, because it's just not worth wasting a life on that.
Amen. And such good advice about reconnecting here. I think, so many people have, since COVID, the layoffs have been ridiculous, and then they continue this year. There's been so many layoffs. People are coming back to LinkedIn for the first time. For many years, it was really just kind of viewed as your online business card, and now it's really more, it's not even just your resume. You need to have some personality on your profile. You need to highlight who you are, and being on a live or connecting with these people. And I've said this on many shows, and a reminder, connect with the people in the chat, and then with people who are on the show. Everybody's kind of pre-vetted. I don't worry when I see someone who sends me a message like, hey, I saw you on Dawn's LinkedIn Live. I've been there several times. I would love to have a conversation with you about, mentorship as an example. So I immediately set up a call, and it's not even that maybe that we could potentially work together, which there is always that potential. But I might know somebody, and you might know somebody, and I might know somebody, and you're getting the human connection. Because the other thing too, regardless of if people are participating in the chat, and we've noticed this definitely over, I have anyway, since I've been on here since the beginning of January, is there'll be people that will sit in the audience and observe. It's kind of, to use a little bit of the COVID analogy, is when it's something's new and you don't know what to expect, we all kind of retreat and observe, like, what the heck is happening? You're going into mode. And that might be here too, because it's like, I don't really know what this is about, but I'm going to sit in the background and watch. And then it's kind of like, oh, this is exactly what somebody told me it was going to be. So now I'm going to start participating. I'm going to start chatting. And then people start connecting. And there's people who have come on, and I love watching this happen, because it was me too. I was nervous about coming on the first time because the word live is so intimidating, because it's like, what if I screw up? Like, what if I make a mistake? And we were just saying this actually before, like, how can you make a mistake being yourself? Like, there is no mistake. You don't need to know the answer to any questions. We're not up here, curing cancer. I mean, I wish we were, but we're just having conversations and just supporting one another, and, encouraging people to participate and connect. I mean, that's what it's about. It's not about the number on your profile. And I've also said this many times, this is a place where you get to know the people behind the profile. Right, Tom?
Yeah, and I think to add to that, people need to be the one creating their own opportunities instead of waiting for something to happen. Like I mentioned, if I was looking for a job and I needed a paycheck, I would get on LinkedIn Live just like I've done and broadcast every day about I have something important to say. And it's not just I'm looking for a job, but I want to share a little bit about who I am. Right? You can promote who you are without distancing people. If you say I need a job, I'm out of money, you'll get sympathy, but it's not a turn on. It's not going to help that individual, right? But if you really exemplify your qualities, your interest, your intentions, you share everything but a job title. But you allow people to visualize you in a position you may not have visualized. You might find a person who sees you in a way that you never imagined. But I wouldn't sit around with resumes waiting for the phone to ring. I would just get on and say, and again, don't be needy, be valuable. Bring the best value you can forward, and start broadcasting at 9, and don't stop until you eat lunch and go back until dinner. Right? And if you're here 8 hours a day for 4 or 5 days, you'll be noticed.
Yes.
You'll be the person who's here all the time and doesn't stop. And and I think that's what people want to see is the desire in you, the ambition in you. And to your point, whenever you're in a toxic workplace, if you switch roles and you're the person who has toxic people in the workplace, you're always wondering, why didn't I take care of it sooner?
Yeah.
Right? You make excuses for the person. Well, what happens if they don't have this and they don't have that? But what you have to realize is there's someone better equipped for what they're taking the seat up for. And they're better equipped for somewhere else where they can fit in an environment that relates to them and vice versa. So it's really just saying, is this a fit? And mindset is the key. Just like if you buy a hat, you got to know your hat size, right?
Right.
It's either going to be too tight or it's going to fall over you. And I think with mindset, you got to ask yourself, does this fit me now? Is your mindset comfortable, Brett?
Right. I just realized that I'm the only one on here without a hat. So anyway,
you got 3 minutes to find
next time I'll make sure I correct that. No, but I think you're right. I think that, I work with elite performers a lot, people that are in that top 10%. And, the performance, I define performance. It's quite simple. It's a very simple formula. One is attitude, and Don, you just spent a few minutes talking about having the attitude. That's important. Mm-hmm. Attitude, okay, plus hard work, discipline, whatever you want to call it, equals performance. Those are the two variables. You notice that I didn't put talent in there, okay, because you can have the highest talent in the world or the lowest talent in the world. And here's the encouragement here. With attitude and hard work, okay, it doesn't matter what your talent is, right? Mm-hmm. You can perform, and performance is rewarded by the marketplace. So if you're not happy with something, do something about it. And a lot of tips in this live here, and this available on replay too, right, Don? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you can replay it, get out your notebook, write it down. Kelly mentioned she starts a day with a journal, right? Yeah. Get out your journal, write down the tips, write down the formula, write down what Donald just mentioned about what you can do every day until you get a job. Don't come on this platform and say, hey, Brett, I need a job. Help me out. Okay, that's not going to do it. That's the wrong attitude. And that's proving to somebody like me that has overseen tens of thousands of people in my career that actually you're lazy. Okay. That's what you might as well just tell me, hey, I'm lazy. Can you help me find a job? And the answer is no, I won't. Okay. But if I can see that you're resourceful and you're doing what Donald just gave you the formula, get on here every day at 9:00 for an hour and make something happen. Guy like Brett is going to see that kind of attitude through your actions and say, okay, now that's somebody that I'm willing to help here. And that type of thing as well. So there's a lot you can do to change your situation with the right mindset.
That's right. I mean, 100%. And I love and I've said this so many times, to people that it's not about, I can teach anyone to do a task in an office. You just can't teach people how to be. Like that's the
Yeah.
other part of it. And if you're not showing any gumption to do anything, like how are you going to help my business? I mean, that is showing a performance, just like you said, like it shows laziness. You know, and if you are someone looking for a job, you need to reach out to Christy and I, and we'll highlight you on our show for job seekers. Because for that exact reason, we thought, you know what, come on and do a live version of your resume, do a pitch of yourself, because you get to know someone here. You have a totally different feel of any of us by hearing us, seeing us, how we speak, as opposed to going to our LinkedIn profiles and reading it. Doesn't mean that you wouldn't go to our profiles and be like, wow, this sounds like a cool person, or they've got some great experience. But when you actually see someone in action, you have a totally different feeling, because how you're interpreting someone is based on your perception of what you're reading. It has nothing to do with truly how we are as people. It's your interpretation of what you're reading as opposed to what you're seeing. And, you know, I've known many people in my career that I have hired because they were hungry, not because they were the most talented.
Exactly.
They were hungry, and they always turn into the best employees, best coworkers, best peers, whatever you want to say, colleagues, because they're hungry to do something in this world, and they will find a way to make it happen. And there is just such a respect for somebody that does something that is off the cuff. Do something different. Things are going to fall into your lap. I don't remember the last time success knocked at my front door. I haven't heard it. What are your thoughts?
No, I hear you. Yeah, I think it's spot on, Kelly, about that. And you know, again, you can take action. So whatever the situation is, you can do something about that. And I hope that that's the one message that people will take away from this mindset, you know, discussion. It's so important to just get moving on it, right? On yourself first. Then you can help other people.
For sure. And I think that, well, I don't think I know, you know, if it's going to be, it's up to me. And how people represent themselves will demonstrate how they're going to represent you if you decide to engage them. So, you know, setting the example of what you're willing to do, how you're willing to do, doing things that most people wouldn't do. But here's the point. Everything you do in life either takes you further to your goal or further away from your goal. And if I said, hey, I need money, I need a job, and I've got to do something, then time is an issue. And if I'm sitting on the couch reading a book or thinking about waiting for someone to call me, what use of time? So if someone said, what'd you do? Well, I was on LinkedIn for 8 hours broadcasting and just sharing stuff, just no different than a person who's on a mall or something and playing the guitar and has a little case in front of them. You start playing your music. You start sharing things in a way that's attractive, not something that is detractive, but something that people enjoy hearing, seeing, because familiarity builds reputation, right? And in today's world, what you did has so little value relative to what it used to be, because now it's what can you do, right? And what can you do now? Doesn't matter what school you went to, all the experience, you're only as good as the next words that come out of your mouth that will either make you relevant or irrelevant at a certain point in your life. And if you're the mover and the shaker, but here's the key. If you got a huge hurricane tailwind, anything you put out there is going to get elevated. It's going to get a lot of attention, you know? So if you don't believe in yourself, believe in a medium that can get you to places that no one else is going, where other people are sending resumes in and being one of 1,000 and never getting a call back, because one conversation is all it needs. You know, you're dealing with 900 million people, but it's only one-on-one that matters. Kelly?
Right.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Either one.
Say again?
Okay. What's your thoughts, Kelly?
I mean, I can't agree more. This goes to the whole, from the very beginning. It's about mindset and action. You've got to take action to make something happen. Try something unusual. if you're not sure what to do, if you're feeling stuck, because a lot of times people, unfortunately,
Mm.
fear for some people is a motivator. For others, it can be something that makes them go, yikes, I don't know what to do. Now I'm stuck and I'm stifled and I don't know how to get out of it. If you're one of those, there's nothing wrong with that. Reach out to someone and have a
Right.
conversation. Like, what can I do? People are there to help you and get out. And sometimes, I know for me, sometimes just having a conversation with, a friend or a family member and being just hearing myself say the words out loud sometimes makes me go, man, what am I thinking?
Mhm.
But don't worry if you're one of those people who feel stuck. There's nothing wrong with you. That happens to many people. Just being like, oh, but I don't know if I can actually make it happen, or what if I'm not good enough? Because then we get into our own head and start having a conversation within ourselves and creating all that worry about what ifs. What if, and all the negative what ifs. Well, what if you reached out to someone and did something different today? Like, try
Mhm.
that. It doesn't have to be, if you're terrified of going live, don't do it yet. Do a baby step, have a conversation with one of us and be like, hey, here's where I'm at. I don't really know what to do. Can you help me, or just listen to me? Nobody's going to do it for you. I think all of us in our own right say, hey, we're happy to help anyone. And if that just means listening sometimes, like, that's the greatest gift to give someone. A lot of times is you just need to be heard. Hey, I'm struggling and I don't know what to do. That's totally fine.
Yeah, that's right. And it is completely human, okay, to make mistakes. And actually, what's interesting is that people like the human side of that. There's a lot of talk and noise in the market nowadays about AI, robotic, and I
Oh,
talked a bit about critical thinking at the beginning of this as well. And look, I'm not worried about AI. Okay, we need to be aware of it, and I want to learn enough about AI, not the programming, because I'm not a programming type of person. I'm a people person, but I'm going to learn enough about it where I can employ it. I'm
mhm.
not going to let it employ me.
Yes.
Okay, so for those of you, the media would like for you to think, okay, AI is going to take your job. Okay, you better worry. You better be dependent on somebody. Take the opposite approach. Okay, oftentimes I found success in my life is doing exactly the opposite of what I read in the media, and the payoff has been huge. Was able to retire thanks to my wife and my own teamwork at 52 years old, financially independent. Uh, you know, and that's by taking the opposite approach as to what the narratives that people are trying to do. So don't let AI scare you. Be human. People actually like people that make mistakes. It might be painful to go through human to human interaction on something. It might be less efficient, but I think people genuinely appreciate that engagement and the human errors, and watching you exhibit resiliency
Mm,
from making that error. Are you able to bounce back from it? What type of person is this really? Can you deal with adversity? What's your adversity quotient? Different things like that. So it's okay to be human. If you're Last thing I'll say, if you want to do a LinkedIn live, okay, and you're hesitant about it, make a video, but then do the live in 2 days. Okay. So
yeah.
don't become a full-time student at anything in life, or
Mm,
you'll never get anything done, and the marketplace will never reward you
that's
for
right.
what you're worth. Okay. So that's very important as well. So many people, I wrote a post about this about a week ago, that if you're not, it's about failure. Right now, a popular buzzword on LinkedIn is it's okay to fail. It's a learning experience. It's true. However, the point that I'd like to make is that never expect failure. If you make a decision, you do everything you can to make it right and succeed. Because if you go into it with the attitude of it's okay to fail, okay,
Okay.
then
Then
what happens is that you might develop the habit of failing all the time, and you wind up becoming a full time student. Okay. So it is okay to fail. I will say that, but don't expect to fail. It gets back to mindset, Donald and Kelly, about what we're talking about today, is that I never expect to fail at anything I do. Do I fail? Have I failed? Yes, I have, but I've succeeded a lot more than
Mhm.
I failed.
I love
Yeah.
that. And the whole part
Yeah.
about being human and you know, we're not perfect. I mean, that's just and going into saying like do a video, watch it, and then go live. If you wait till you're perfect, and granted, I'm not gonna lie, I've struggled with this to this day on an occasion, is you just gotta go for it in the sense of, yeah,
Yeah.
mess up, so what? I mean, I've seen people like Simon Sinek, who I'm a humongous fan of. He's done so many TED Talks and he's brilliant. But one of the things that he does, and this has happened to him, and he uses it as an
Mhm.
example for people who, do public speaking. He was in the middle of doing a huge presentation in front of thousands of people, and he lost his train of thought. And he was
Mm.
like, huh, wow, have you ever been one of those people that when you're right in the middle of a conversation and you know what you were going to say? And like the audience, of course, erupted and had this amazing feel of empathy and compassion because they can relate to being human. And where some people, if they lost their train of thought doing a presentation, which is just like a LinkedIn Live,
Right.
if if I were to lose my train of thought, I would be like, "Oh, I just lost my train of thought." You all would probably chuckle, and you wouldn't be like, "Wow, she sucks." I mean, that's just not how we operate as humans. We relate to it, and it's okay, and
Yeah.
you almost feel more connected to that person because they've shown that they're human. So, what are your thoughts on
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Go
yeah.
ahead.
Go ahead.
that,
I think, we've been hitting on so many wonderful different perspectives and ways to look at something. And, what we're dealing with is semantics too.
Dan?
Failure isn't final, it's feedback if you look at it that way. And there's another thing of, maybe getting older, getting a little wiser and becoming more patient and understanding, is that if you've done really well, and I have, and I've been very successful in most ways, because once you get there, you work it. You don't go back to failure and work up again. Sometimes you can elevate, stay there, is you do get a mindset of 110% confidence, because I would never approach something if I couldn't add value. Now, if you're looking for complete success, absolute anything, you're setting the bar way too high. And
Mhm.
my bar is, have I helped somebody today? Well, that's the most important thing I can do. And if I've done, I'm already a big success. Now, what have I done for myself? Well, you picked up a new food that you never ate before, and maybe it'll make you healthier. Maybe you took a walk in a different park than you're used to.
Right. Mhm.
It's not only keeping score, but taking time to look at the score and saying, boy, I had the best oatmeal this morning I ever had.
Mhm.
I saw a sunrise that I couldn't believe. I mean, there's so many blessings, so many miracles around you that are part of just living, that when you depend on someone else, an environment, to make you whole, it's already sending a signal to you that you shouldn't need anything else to make you everything you want to be. That should
Right.
be gravy and a compliment. And when you go in like that, people see it. People have an energy that you can't touch or feel. I mean, yourself, some people walk into a room and the room automatically changes, good or bad,
Yes.
depending on who they are and what they bring. And you have
Mhm.
to believe that what's good for them could be good for you. And how do you walk into a room? And how do people take notice of you? And it's usually the
Right.
people who are the most open, friendliest. I mean, someone jumps in a room and starts shaking hands and patting people on the back and, so glad to see you, happy you're here. All the wallflowers look even worse. The people sitting down waiting for their meal or their drink or something, and then there's somebody out there really working it. And for
Mhm.
anything to work, you got to work it, and you got to work it a lot harder in the beginning until you get good at doing it. Right. And then you can maybe ease off, but then you look for another level to move to, because everybody's got a plane, everybody's on the runway, and everybody's plane will be taken away from them one day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how far do you want to fly? How high do you want to fly? Who do you want to fly with? Build your own plane on this runway, either through my show, your own show. There's a lot of shows and a lot of good people. Gretchen has her show. If you're knowing these people, take advantage of what they're providing for everybody and say, I'd love to be a guest on your show. And, I know that Dr. Mary Jo, I forgot her last name, suggested her two topics. She's coming in about 14 days. I mean, I got people out 6 weeks that are scheduled. And it's just great. So do what has been working for me and people on the show is just be visible. That's the first thing. You don't want to be in the witness protection program here on LinkedIn.
That's right. Yeah. Otherwise, why do it? Right. Otherwise, why do it? Jump in that water. Don't dip your toes. Like when I was a little boy, my mom always said, Brett, just jump in the water. It's not going to be that bad. Don't dip those toes, just jump in. I think we've all been through that. And to use your airplane analogy, Don, is that build your own airplane, but don't build any passenger seats.
Mm-hmm.
And take people with you. The only seats available on my planes are in the cockpit with me. Okay. That's my leadership philosophy. There is no room for passengers, and that's the ecosystem. So everything that I do as a leader is designed to help elevate people and take that plane off, fly safely, smoothly, hopefully, deal with adversity, deal with weather, and land safely so that everybody feels that they contributed to the successful mission. And there is no room for passengers on my airplane. So don't build a passenger cabin. It's a waste of space anyway.
The smaller ones are cooler anyways. Kelly?
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, yes, the smaller ones are cooler. I jumped out of one time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
We'll hear about that. I'd like to hear about that someday.
Yes. But I love that because it is. You don't need any passengers. That's dead weight. Those are things to me that's honestly like a great analogy when you're in a toxic environment. It's the passenger car being overflowed and you can't move as fast or you're being pulled back. You can't fly with dead weight. So, I mean, great analogy. And it's so true. Surround yourself with other people that, and want you to fly. People who want you to stay grounded because they're grounded and they want to have, misery loves company. I want to be with a bunch of people that want to fly and shine and make them brighter. I mean, those are people you want to be around. This is not competition. It's all about and especially here on LinkedIn and being here, this is not competition. We're in collaboration and we're here for one another. And I think it's awesome. Such great advice. What are your thoughts, Don?
Well, I think, when I thinking of what we're doing here and, to Brett's point, all the people that have been impacted and have had an opportunity to learn and maybe grow from these broadcasts is where else can you find an individual like Brett or Kelly that have so much experience? And if you go to the right, you can add on a boatload of more wonderful experience that you're going to get their best advice that's distilled over time. You wouldn't have had access to, you probably wouldn't be able to afford anybody for one-on-one, right? But this is a way that you can capture all this wonderful knowledge. And not only that, you can direct the knowledge. There's one thing to be in an audience and people just give you so much value. You're taking notes and you say, wow, this is going to be great. But what if you were part of the discussion, which you are? What if you were using this as a platform to get people to notice you, have those calls? Because in essence, if we talk about HR, you're hoping someone calls you. That's the goal. You give them something and hope they get back with you. Well, while you're waiting for people to get back with you, do an experiment. For every resume you sent, set up a Zoom call with somebody you want to possibly work with, maybe not work for. Too many people look at it like they already come in as a subordinate, right? Instead of a peer or a strategic partner or just an idea person, and let that other person have an opportunity to identify who you are, what you can do, and what you can do together, because people may be attracted to you for what you do or what you choose to do, but they're going to stay or leave because of you, right? And if you're
Right.
not friendly, if you're not thoughtful, if you're not somebody that they get more value for being with, that's the thing is are you worthy? Not is there opportunity. There's definitely opportunity in this whole world. Are you kidding me? There's not a spot that if people knew more about you, they couldn't find something good about you and help you. And I
Mm.
think helping each other is about everything. So I know we're top of the hour. I try to be respectful when we're there. I
Yep.
want to thank all the guests and all, Brett and Kelly. I know I had some technical issues, and that's part of the thing. And I think what people should look at when there's technical issues is not what the issue is what was the response to the person who dealt with the issue. Right?
Right.
If they're kicking
Exactly.
and screaming and yelling and complaining, that's a sign of who you're really with.
Yeah, I
And
got to have that AQ, right? That's
yeah,
right.
and you got to laugh. And that's the other thing about doing a lot. No one thing matters as much as if it was the only thing you were doing. If I do this every day and one isn't like perfect, I got another chance as soon as I wake up tomorrow to do another one and another one. And it
Right.
puts things in perspective. And,
Mhm.
that's, I think, when you look at mindset, one of the key elements is what nourishes your mindset, what makes your mindset something special to you, that you're excited to take it out with you wherever you go, share it with as many people as you can, and learn from the feedback that you get. And that's where confidence comes in through practice and feedback and third party validation. And then you got what you need. Now you can go forth. Brett, final words?
Yeah, nothing delights me more as a former leader around the world, working across 30 countries, than waking up every morning and having a cashier from Zambia, Southern Africa country, just say, "Good morning to you, Brett. I'm wishing you a great day." Colleagues in the country and more. Um, Enlightening is impacting other people. So impact yourself, impact other people, and you'll be able to live a satisfying life.
Well, can't beat that. On those
Yep.
words, we're going to sign off. I want to thank
Yes.
everybody for being here today. It makes so much difference for me and the co host, but also there is so much benefit in living vicariously through others and seeing other people move up, really achieve things that they might not have been able to do without the help of the audience or us. And that's what makes it all worthwhile. So, with that said, rest up. 23 hours from now, we get that together. Tomorrow, we've got Christy. On Saturday, we've got Rita Wirtz, who's a new individual, and Omar M. And then going into Sunday is Sarah Dawkins, and Leslie's going to be here on Monday, and it just gets better. So, with that, thank you, Brett. Thank you,
You're
Kelly.
welcome.
Thank you, audience. And talk some more. Bye for now.
Great. Bye bye.